Hello, dear friend. So good to have you back. If for whatever reasons you've been skipping my videos, I want to appeal to you not to skip this very one. This book I am reviewing is a spiritual manual with scientific backing. It has information that proves to us that the realm of the supernatural, the realm of the unknown is rich, is inexhaustible, it's wealthy, it's infinite. You can draw down anything you desire, anything you want, anything you aim at is possible, but only at that realm. So we are going to have a where know how to enter into that realm. The last story in the first chapter of this book is what I'm about to talk about. If you've not listened to the other ones, watch the other ones, please go and watch it. It's about the mystical experience of the author himself, Dr. Joe Dispenza. And under that, he tells us it getting mystical. Getting mystical. What is Joe Dispenza meaning here? He means that, the stories I told earlier, a woman who healed her body and recovered from every ailment, including cancer and paralysis, that she suffered because of suicide or the suicide of her beloved husband. Now, Dr. Joe Dispenza says the mystical realm, the transcendental realm, is not only for healing. You can have it to draw down anything, to download any desire you want, any need you want, any part of your life that you want it to be fixed. The transcendental realm is sufficiently able. You can call it the God realm because that is what it is, to give you that experience. So that's what he means by getting mystical. The next thing I want to point out here is the pineal gland. The pineal gland. So someday, that was when he had the first experience. He said he had just finished writing about the pineal gland. He conducted a research that he did for over a month. And when he dropped the biro that day, he was calm and quiet. He was a little tired. He just asked carelessly, "Where is the pineal gland?" And boom, something happened. Before I say what happened, I like telling people, don't give attention to wickedness, to evil, to Satan, to anything you don't want at all. We know now that where your attention goes, your energy goes. So why do we keep binding and casting and teaching Satan, evil, wickedness, including bad news feeds? I don't read them. Including listen to bad news on TV or on radio. I don't have time for it because I now know that they have a way of influencing me. And Joe points out here that it is through the pineal gland that happens. Then the next thing I want to point out before I talk about the experience of Joe is the fact that he did not have that experience or any other experiences he had except he was calm. He was in stillness, in solitude, and in silence. That's what I keep saying. Not when he was screaming. That's why I don't buy the idea of screaming and shouting because you are praying. When you do that, it appears you are addressing a being, an external quarters. You are supposed to go inward. From Christ to Buddha, Muhammad, Guru Nanak, all of them, your pastor, your imam, your spiritual head teacher, and others, your temple leader, they did not have any mystical, supernatural, transcendental experience when they were shouting or screaming. They had those experiences when they were still, when they were in quiet and silent meditation. So that's the next thing I want to point out. Now the story of the pineal gland. He said when he asked, "Where is even the pineal gland?" Shortly afterwards, he fell into a trance, a vision where he saw the pineal gland, an old-fashioned clock-looking gland somewhere in the head. It acts as a transducer. There's something that we have in the radio, you have in the TV that can make them receive signals and transmit it or transform it to what you like, either pictures or news or vocals or voice. The pineal gland acts like that. You receive signals from the external, the unknown, the supernatural, and sends it to our body based on the signals we are already generating in our body through our thoughts, our beliefs, our words, our feelings. So that's the role of the pineal gland. The next thing he saw, the fact that he entered into the quantum field and he noticed that all possibilities exist in the quantum field. He noticed that whatever you want exists there because over there, you're no longer yourself, your known self, your identity, your name, your problems, your friends, your family, your distractions. You surrender those known things to the unknown, and in the unknown, everything exists. Everything exists in the unknown. He was able to crack, like I put it here, he cracked the code of the supernatural where all possibilities exist. And one more thing I want to point out is that he saw the oneness in everything. Before I even read this book, when I started awakening, I realized the oneness between man and God. And it is predominant in my teaching that the idea of separation between you and God is what is keeping you stuck, stranded, frustrated, beggarly, needing help, needing intervention, needing prayers, needing the laying of hands, needing all those things. You've been indoctrinated over time. You are separate from God, and God is far, that you have to fulfill certain conditions to get to Him. So he saw the oneness. Even before I read this book, I had that. He saw the oneness of all, the oneness of the universe, the oneness of everyone. That's where you experience what you experience in the quantum field. So he saw the oneness of everything. And another thing I noted here was the magnitude of God, the enormosity of God, the inexhaustibility of God, the infinite level of God. That's only possible when you're quiet and calm in meditative state. You are able to transcend to the known where all possibilities exist. Then another thing he had was this childhood experience. He said he saw himself as a child. I know some of us will agree with this. Some of us used to have such thoughts, maybe only as thoughts. Some people also have it as a vision, as a trance, where you see yourself when you were quite young. He said he saw himself when he was young, when he was playing. Another time when he was sick, he was being babied, and he was still himself. He saw himself by himself. He was still himself. This was over 40 years earlier, and he saw himself. He said, wow. So what does that tell us? He is saying that to tell us that what we were taught all the while, that we are a product of past, present, and future, linear time, is wrong. That all possibilities exist in the present moment. Bible says now is the appointed time. Now is the hour of salvation. So all that past, future, present, that means I like telling people, what is it you want God to do for you? Are you aware that those things already exist? Are you aware that they are already present? They're already there. I taught my children not too long ago that very soon someone will think of how to pass electricity without cables. And just this month, I heard the news that I think in China or thereabout, there is an innovation to pass electricity without cables. Everything you will ever discover is already in existence. It will not be created afresh or anew. It's already there. So that's the next thing I noted here. Then the last but one thing I want to point out is he also teaches in this last section of chapter 1 about melatonin level. The melatonin level is the chemical level that induces lucid visions, lucid dreams. So he realized, because after he had this encounter where he saw himself as a child, he desired such encounters again. But as much as he tried, he could not succeed to bring it back, to replicate it. So until he realized that, look, the melatonin level of the body that induces lucid experiences are only high between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. So he recommends, when you want to do meditation, do it between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. That's when scientifically proven, biologically, the melatonin level of the body are quite high. Then the last thing I want to point out, when he realized that he started doing meditations between those hours, between 1 and 4 a.m. One of those days, without trying to force it, the thing just happened naturally. He had another experience. This is the grandest of them all. He saw himself in a different timeline, in a different location, in a different generation, as a different person. He was wearing something different generation, maybe about 30, 40, 50 generations ago, where there was no civilization. He said he was a student under the tutelage of a certain philosopher. His master message or mission was to teach people to free themselves from external dependencies, from relying on external beings, external structures, even governments, religion, whatever is external, that the solution to their problems lied in them. So that was the mission of his master, and the master taught him. And at some point, the master decided to let him go and teach the message and carry out his mission. So he went around doing it. newly graduated students. So he went about telling people about it. At the initial stage, he had some people come around him every time he would gather them in the market, in some places, and they would quite applaud him. You're doing well. But one day, unknown to him, while he was just rounding off in one of those stations, he was caught by law operating officers and taken to prison. He knew he was illegal for him to have taught people not to rely on government, not to rely on external codes of behaviors. And shortly after, he was tortured tremendously and he was laid on trial. The trial judge or magistrate asked him, do you want to continue with this message? At first, he wouldn't say anything. But the more he kept quiet, the more the trial magistrate or judge beckoned on the people that held him to torture him some. He was bleeding everywhere. He said the only thing that he was dead because he was in severe pain and agony. Finally, he nodded in admission that he would not do it again if he's freed, if he's spared. And he was spared. He said when he was spared in that dream, in that vision, he ran straight out of that community, out of that area entirely, and went and hid himself in a cave. And shortly after he realized it, he woke up. He came to this level that we call reality, in quote. We'll talk about that some other time. So what does that tell him? He said that informed me because he was having mixed feelings about carrying on with this vision of telling people that, look, you can free yourself with your mind by getting into the quantum field by yourself. You can live a supernatural life. He was about not doing it because as a scientist, some extreme scientists were not comfortable with some of the preachings, even though he had some scientific proofs to what he was teaching. So but that vision emboldened him to carry on with his mission. And again, I want to point out that if you listen to leaders, teachers, preachers, and so on, some of them had one experience or the other, including Christ, including Muhammad, including Buddha, that emboldened them, strengthened them to carry on with their mission. The last thing I want to say here is the statement, we are not linear beings living linear lives, but we are dimensional beings living dimensional lives. That's to tell you you're more than your physical body, your shape, your thoughts, your words, your beliefs, your known environment, the things you can feel, you can touch, you can see, the things you can interact with your senses. You are far more than that. That's a very limited version of you. If only you know how to ignite or activate the pineal gland. Some people call it the third eye. Some people say it is what Christ referred to when he said, when your eye is single. Some people call it the focus gland. If you know how to activate it, which we are going to learn in this book as we proceed, I've told you it is very rich, it is very scientific, it is very spiritual. Keep a date with us daily. And very importantly, I would appreciate your like, your share, and your follow. Thank you so much. Keep popping.